As I have ranked every classic season of Doctor Who, I think it's been long overdue to rank all the revived series, starting from 2005 to the present day. I have talked about every story from the revival in my ranking videos, but this will be the first time I've listed all of the revival in one video. Plus, this is the first time I will be including the 15th Doctor on my channel, as Series 14, or Season 1, whatever the heck you want to call it, will be included here. A few disclaimers before we start. I am only ranking the numbered seasons here, so stories such as the 2009 specials, the 50th and 60th anniversary specials respectively, will not be counted here. It goes without saying that this is all my own personal opinion. If you like or dislike any of these series, that's absolutely fine. Furthermore, there's no series of the revival that I outright hate, I just prefer some over others. So, let's keep the comments civil, as every series is going to be given a number, of course. And without further ado, at the bottom of the barrel for the revived series, we have number 14, Series 7. This is without a doubt the worst that the revived series has to offer in my opinion, which is such a shame as all eyes were on Doctor Who during its 50th anniversary year. But let's start with the positives. The mantra surrounding Series 7 was standalone episodes that could be akin to blockbuster movies every week. The direction certainly proves that, as every episode does have a unique style and look to it, and I certainly can't call Series 7 repetitive in terms of story style. There are some gems to be found in this series, such as The Rings of Akaten, Hyde, The Crimson Horror, and Dinosaurs on the Spaceships, being fun times, and they can show that Doctor Who is unlike any other TV programme, and I even managed to find new appreciation for stories like A Town Called Mercy. This was an episode I wasn't a big fan of on first viewing, but now consider it an overlooked gem. Sadly, from the showrunner himself, Stephen Moffat, he really wasn't on his A-game this year, ranging from middling stories like Name of the Doctor to outright awful episodes like Asylum of the Daleks that don't leave much confidence in the series when it starts and ends. Speaking of the Daleks and the Cybermen, this was not a great year for them. We were promised nostalgic and looking ahead to the future for both of these iconic villains with new potential being realised, but the aim was so off, it's almost as if the writers didn't even have their eyes open when aiming. Top that off with a dull as dishwater TARDIS story that should be a great development for the 11th Doctor and Clara's relationship, but psych, it doesn't matter by the end. Whilst I am grateful for the 50th anniversary specials being as good as it was, I find it such a shame we had to get through such middling and outright bad stories to get to it. From containing some of the worst stories of his tenure, Series 7 ranks the worst of the Stephen Moffat era and the revival as a whole. Number 13. Series 13. Doctor Who Flux is like climbing slowly but surely up a mountain, where you tread carefully with imperfect episodes like the Halloween Apocalypse and Once Upon Time, but you do get peaks from the 13th Doctor era such as War of the Sontarans and Village of the Angels. Both stories rank as some of the best from the Chibnall era in my opinion. Sadly, the final two episodes are the equivalent of giving you more boxes to hold whilst you collapse down the stairs, but the person handing you the boxes looks surprised that you fell completely fat on your arse. I certainly want to give this production team huge props for being able to make a series under COVID restrictions and being able to pull this off on a technical level. Despite starting well and ensuring that not every episode is similar in spite of being one big story, I think the final two episodes just leave a sour taste in my mouth because the revelations just felt so empty. I have discussed this in my 13th Doctor ranking video, but the division just feels so lifeless because their motivations feel very basic, and they're taken out of the story in the very same episode we learn more about them, so they're not even the final threat, which makes it feel like I watched a bunch of stuff happening but with no substance. I am happy with the first 4 episodes, and I only wish the finale stick the landing in a truly epic way that successfully tied everything together. On a positive note, like the previous 2 series, Flux really shines when it comes to adventures in history and reviving old enemies. The Sontarans and the Weeping Angels become a force to be reckoned with once again and put into situations that truly realise their potential, like the Crimean War in a haunted English village. Despite Series 13's best efforts, I do rank it as one of the weaker episodes for bombing the landing despite the ride being pretty good throughout. Number 12. Series 14. Oh hey Dr. 15, nice to see you join this list. You may be surprised to see the 15th Doctor's first season so low, and don't get me wrong, there is a lot to like about Ncuti Gatwa's first season and Russell T Davies' triumphant return to Doctor Who, but I found the problems in this series to be fairly similar to Flux, where there are definite highs in this series, but the finale left a sour taste in my mouth. On a positive note, Ncuti Gatwa oozes confidence, compassion and charisma as the 15th Doctor, and settles in very well, working wonders with Ruby Sunday. It is nice to see a mystery surrounding the companion, but Russell remembers to make her a fun-loving character first, and not just have her be all about the mystery. Series 14 does shine when it comes to variety. One week we're visiting space baby geniuses, then taking on a creature that feeds on music, all before an episode that's based on the Doctor being unable to move for the entirety of an episode, and a Regency love story to go here. The highlights for this series certainly include 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble, Doctor Light stories that show Ruby can carry an episode to herself, and a bold perspective for the latter told from a closeted racist with a powerful statement about how social media is placing us all in bubbles, where we can't even see the blobby creatures consuming us. As much as I enjoy these Doctor Light episodes and they feel wildly different from each other, I do wish that structurally they were apart, as I think having 2 Doctor Light episodes back to back was too much of a lack of Doctor, especially in a debut season. Now don't get me wrong, I get Ncuti Gatwa was filming Sex Education at the time, but I still think it's a weakness nonetheless. And to be more negative, let's talk about that ever so controversial finale. While I think the first part is great setup and the cliffhanger left my jaw on the floor, the entirety of the episode that came after felt like such a waste. The reveal being that Ruby's mum is a very normal, by-the-books woman is just very underwhelming, not because she's boring or unimportant, but because so much set her up to be someone. In the time window she has seen a shadow, almost like she was flicking in and out of existence. That wasn't really explained. Sutekh couldn't even figure out who she was, and he's the ultimate evil, but he could have done so pretty easily given his powers and her identity being no real secret to anyone on his level, and that wasn't explained. If the mystery hadn't been built on throughout the series, I'd have been fine with it, because in isolation, that scene where Ruby does reunite with her mum is brilliant, and it's probably comforting for people who are in similar positions to her. I just don't get why this mystery was so hyped up with such a poor payoff that felt so separate from everything we were getting. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a lot to admire about Ncuti Gatwa's first season as the Doctor, but I think we are in need of some fresh blood to make this Doctor truly exceptional. Here's hoping Series 15 will deliver next year, but for the time being, Series 14 is good, but could have been a lot more. Number 11. Series 2. Like any sequel, the biggest question surrounding Series 2 was, can we do it again, and can we deliver? The answer was certainly yes, but there's a lingering no surrounding this series. Series 2 will forever be special to me, as it was the season that got me into Doctor Who as an 8-year-old, but similar to Series 7, Series 2 contains quite possibly 3 of the worst episodes from the RTD era. I really don't get whose idea it was to have David Tennant going through a body swap when you really should be showing off the new Doctor with confidence, and do I even need to discuss Love and Monsters and Fear Her? I feel that horse has well and truly been flogged by now. Furthermore, what prevents Series 2 from climbing higher on this list are the 2 leads. As much as I love David Tennant and Billie Piper as actors, I'm really not a fan of the happy-go-lucky smug attitude they have in most stories, making them pretty insufferable to watch. Rose Tyler becomes increasingly irritating and smug, and such a huge thorn on the Doctor's side. However, putting all those negatives to one side, I really can't deny Series 2's stunning ambition as a whole. One week we're saving Queen Victoria from a werewolf, in a script apparently written by Russell T Davies in a weekend. I'm amazed it turned out this great. Then we're seeing old friends like Sarah Jane and K9 from the classic era, a love story across time and space, the Cybermen stomping their way into the 21st century before encountering the devil himself under a planet orbiting a black hole. Series 2 rarely holds back with its ambition, and when it hits, we can get some uncontested home runs here, but when it falters, you really feel the weaker episodes crash and burn. This is still a great start for the 10th Doctor, but in my opinion, the best was still to come for this era of the programme, and the boundaries have yet to be pushed through, but hang fire before we get to the rest of the 10th Doctor era. Number 10. Series 6. Much like Series 2, I find Matt Smith and Stephen Moffat's second series to be very ambitious, with interconnected storytelling and revelling in having more of a season-long arc, as opposed to having a recurring word or object appear in every story. Series 6 certainly presents itself as one heck of a ride to go through, with some uncontested highs from the 11th Doctor era, such as The Doctor's Wife, The Girl Who Waited, and A Good Man Goes to War, that expertly takes advantage of a mid-season finale by still making it as epic as possible and leaving the audience hungry for more still. We've also got other gems, such as opening the series with a time-hopping conspiracy thriller, Night Terrors, which explores a child's fear way better than Fear Her ever did, and The God Complex, which is a terrific look at faith, beliefs before Amy's is shattered in the Doctor's. I didn't think you could make running up and down the same corridor thrilling, but they really pulled it off. Matt Smith, Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill work wonders as my favourite TARDIS team of the revived series, all having grown as actors and characters since they started in Series 5. Where Series 6 falters, however, is its story arc, as the mystery surrounding the silence and the death of the Doctor just fizzles out come the finale, with episode 13 starting magnificently, before more or less flipping you off and saying, "Ha, the last series meant nothing, just be back in time for Christmas." Series 6 is the definition of a mixed bag. We've got a mix of bad, average, good and great, but I can certainly give this series an A for its ambition. Number 9. Series 11. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for daring to put any of Chibnall's seasons above Moffat's, but as I said before, this is my opinion, and this is why you're watching the video, so here we go. There is a lot to admire about Series 11 for its back-to-basics approach for the 13th Doctor's debut. The multi-connected story arcs? Gone. Companions being mystery boxes? Gone. A reliance on old enemies and monsters? Gone. Unless you count Resolution as part of this series. Series 11 contains a remarkable set of episodes that do feel stripped back when compared to the previous showrunner era, but there's still a wide variety of locations. Present-day Sheffield, a desert planet, 1950s Alabama, post-war India, and even encountering a living universe in the shape of a talking frog. Whilst there are lows in this series, such as arachnids in the UK and the disappointing Battle of Ramscott av Bleble, Series 11 more than makes up for its shortcomings, with an emphasis on trips into history and periods that general audiences aren't overly familiar with, such as the Partition of India, which easily takes the top spot as the best story of this series. After being absent since arguably Series 6, the Doctor finally meets figures from history again, such as Rosa Parks and King James I, getting the kids hooked on real history once again. Not since the William Hartnell era have we had such an emphasis on historical events, and there's still more to come in the 13th Doctor era. Whilst the TARDIS crew may be too much to cram into 45-minute episodes, I love watching Ryan and Graham's relationship develop over the series, before culminating in a surreal episode all about grief, loss, and the importance of moving on. Series 11 certainly has its ups and downs, but in my opinion there is so much to admire about the 13th Doctor's first series, and if you're after comforting, standalone episodes that are easy watches, then look no further than this series. Number 8. Series 9. I do find it hard to rank all of the 12th Doctor's 3 respective series, as his era does have the best and worst to offer across his whole tenure, and there is a lot to like about Series 9. The series fully takes advantage of its mostly two-part structure, starting with a nostalgic trip to Skaro, followed by a story that starts as your typical base under siege adventure, but with a dash of wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey for good measure, the Doctor questioning whether he has the right to save or arguably condemn a Viking girl to immortality, followed by a Zygon invasion that feels straight out of the Jon Pertwee era, found footage, trap streets, the Doctor grieving in isolation, before breaking his own rules on Gallifrey. Series 9 does have its detractors because of its finale, but I think it's an interesting take on the Doctor-companion dynamic, in a time where the two are becoming toxic to one another. Then it makes the Doctor break his own rules, and it's fascinating to watch. The clear highlight of Series 9 is Heaven Sent, a masterpiece of television with an award-winning performance from Peter Capaldi, arguably the most versatile actor to have ever played the Doctor. Whilst I enjoy Jenna Coleman as Clara, for me it's clear that she has overstayed her welcome at this point, and it does feel like Series 9 was hastily rewritten to accommodate her presence, as she doesn't really contribute much until the finale. Now, I have heard rumours that Series 9 was conceived as a companionless series, with the Doctor going solo for a year, and I would have loved to have seen that idea come to fruition. But for what it is, Series 9 is the perfect mix of the more stoic Doctor from Series 8, and the elements of compassion that would encompass the 12th Doctor era in Series 10. I guess that was the hybrid all along then. Number 7. Series 8. Series 8 has quite possibly some of the 12th Doctor's best stories in this year, such as Listen, Mummy on the Orient Express, Flatline and Into the Dalek, arguably the best Dalek story from the entire Moffat era, though its competition isn't really that big, but also contains some of his worst, like The Caretaker, Kill the Moon and In the Forest of the Night. You may be thinking why this ranks higher than Series 9 if the stories aren't as consistent as that year. But what makes up for those shortcomings are the two leads, who are given terrific material to work with. The 12th Doctor may be presented as the most uncaring incarnation, doubting whether he's a good man, but his plea of his ends justifying the means makes him a fascinating Doctor to watch, and such a great contrast to the raggedy 11th Doctor. We have a Doctor with the veil completely stripped away, no F's given, but still saves the day because it's the right thing to do. Clara is given more to do in Series 8, having finally been freed of her impossible girl arc, and whilst the idea of a companion having a love interest and trying to balance life in the TARDIS with the everyday and ordinary, it's at least something the writers are trying to give Clara. Furthermore, despite coming from the same showrunner, Series 8 strips away the fairy tale aspects of the 11th Doctor era and focuses more on serious science fiction concepts, such as the clockwork droids harvesting human remains, shrinking down to go inside a Dalek, the concept of fear being explored, a time heist, the moon being an egg, and the Orient Express in space before encountering an AI version of the afterlife, with a terrific reintroduction for the Master played by Michelle Gomez. Series 8 has a lot to offer, especially coming after the 50th anniversary, but it certainly delivered for this new Doctor, even if not every story was hitting the mark. Number 6. Series 12. On paper, Series 12 does feel structurally the anti-Series 11, with a return to story arcs, monsters from the past, and two-parters. However, I feel so much more confidence in this series than I do in Series 11. Series 12 may have the low point with Orphan 55, an overstuffed mess of an episode that desperately needed to be a two-parter to make its concept work, and you do get your bog-standard episodes such as Praxius, but this series proved how well they could pull off older enemies as well as introducing some intriguing new villains. Sacha Dhawan's interpretation of the Master is quite possibly my favourite version from the revived series. This is a Master who hates himself just as much as he hates others, almost as if he's a metaphor for those angry not my doctors who still can't comprehend a woman playing the Doctor, so they love to destroy everything around them until they have nothing to hate but themselves. The Cybermen are also given a terrifying take, with the lone Cyberman showing us the true horror of cyber conversion and their power across the universe in the finale, as opposed to a species on the verge of extinction. Series 12, however, does continue the foundations laid down in Series 11, with emphasis on history in 1920s America, World War II, and giving Mary Shelley the inspiration for Frankenstein. We've also got intriguing new monsters like Skifra, who are brilliant scavenging monsters, and also Zelin, who will give you nightmares for weeks literally. The historical figures are given just about the right amount of detail, so you feel you can get to know them over the episode, but it leaves you hanging ever so slightly, so it encourages you to do your own research as well. Top that off with the ever so controversial lore changes with the inclusion of the Fugitive Doctor and the Timeless Children, but anyone who accused Chibnall of playing it too safe in Series 11 can now hang their head in shame. Series 12 may rely on the past and be overcrowded, especially with the TARDIS team at points, but it shows that Doctor Who isn't limited by what came before and can make its own future with its revelations. This is still Doctor Who, despite what the Not My Doctors say, and I hold no apology for placing Series 12 as high as I do. Number 5. Series 10. In my opinion, Series 10 is the modern day equivalent of the classic Season 18, in that there's so much variety that will satisfy everyone from newcomers to long-term fans. Series 10 starts as a soft reboot of Doctor Who, with the first episode even being called The Pilot. The first half continues a trend of solid standalone episodes that range from emoji robots, elephants on the ice in the 18th century, a haunted house, how capitalism will look in the far future, all before focusing on multi-part stories and callbacks to the past, that all work pretty well for the most part. Whilst I'm not a fan of 2/3 of the Monk trilogy, I really enjoy the rest of Series 10 despite not every story being solid gold or a home run, but they're still comforting standalone entertainment. Bill Potts and Nardole make terrific companions with such a fresh dynamic that doesn't feel bogged down by a romance or a mystery box, but a teacher-student relationship that Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie pull off, making them a similar dynamic to the 7th Doctor and Ace. There are some terrific highs to be found in Series 10, with the finale being the highlight of the 12th Doctor era being World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls, giving us a fantastic genesis of the Cybermen, as well as our first multi-master story on our screens, that looks to give the current Master a redemption arc and not just have the old Master be there for fan service. The dynamic TARDIS team of Series 10 takes what could have been a run-of-the-mill series, but elevates this into a modern interpretation of the classic series, with Bill Potts being effortlessly likeable and sincere, and working so well with Nardole. I would love to see this TARDIS team reunite on Big Finish one day. While Series 10 may not be the most consistently great on this list, it more than makes up for it with its fantastic Doctor and companions, and was a great way for the 12th Doctor to bow out. Number 4. Series 3. This series oozes so much confidence and charisma. You can tell the creative team are really pushing the boundaries for this series, knowing they have the audience on the hook. Series 3 is a consistently strong series with not a single story that I could skip on a rewatch. Even in its worst story like Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks, I didn't find to be a total write-off, and had merits to offer despite its shortcomings. Even stories like The Lazarus Experiment and 42, while they're not classics by any means, they are brilliant thrill rides that dare to discuss the longevity of life and even push the 10th Doctor to his limits and make him truly terrified for his own mortality. David Tennant truly gets to shine as the 10th Doctor when he isn't being held back in a happy-go-lucky relationship, and there are times where we get to see the might of the Doctor's power and why you shouldn't push him to his limit. Freema Agyeman had big shoes to fill as Martha Jones, but she certainly proved her worth in the TARDIS. A companion who's selfless enough to tolerate the Doctor's shortcomings, but independent enough to realise that she deserves better. Series 3 holds nothing back by giving us Rhino policemen on the moon, witches in Tudor England, Macra in the year 5 billion, Daleks in New York sewers, and a real-time base under siege thrill ride, and that's all in the first half. Some of the best 10th Doctor stories can be found in the second half of Series 3, with Human Nature to the Sound of Drums all being masterful pieces of TV, depicting the Doctor as being the lonely god who does see himself as above the human race, as he doesn't even factor falling in love when becoming human in the Human Nature two-parter. Utopia is masterful TV with the return of Captain Jack and the Master, and whilst John Sim in the finale is giving his all as the unhinged incarnation of the Master, I don't think John Sim was quite suited to this material and he wasn't really too menacing, but we were lucky to get Sir Derek Jacobi himself as the Master, even making it more tragic because Professor Yana was such an endearing character. With all this in mind, Series 3 has all the makings of a well-oiled TARDIS that oozes confidence and charisma, and explores how the Doctor sees the universe in ways that we hadn't seen before, but the best of the 10th Doctor era is still to come. Nevertheless, Series 3 easily ranks in the top 5 of the revived era for being a solid and consistently high run of television. Number 3. Series 1. While Series 3 may be stronger in terms of story quality, as Series 1 can come across as a bit too CBBC early in its run, I still have to place Series 1 in the top 3 for feeling so complete. When making this series, fingers were crossed for a second series, but it wasn't an immediate guarantee. But with scripts this strong and drama this compelling, there's a reason Doctor Who is still going strong nearly 20 years later, and all its origins can be traced back to here. It is a detriment to the series that we never really go to alien planets or beyond Earth's orbit. Nevertheless, Christopher Eccleston is immediately compelling as the 9th Doctor, with humour, a captivating screen presence, and commanding the stories when fit. While Rose Tyler isn't my favourite companion, Billie Piper knocks it out of the park and is given more of a backstory than any other companion that came before her in the classic series, with Rose's home life and domestic life playing an important part in the drama just as much as fighting monsters and saving the Earth. The 9th Doctor and Rose dynamic gave us such great character drama in stories that were overflowing with emotions. The Doctor is a scarred survivor, and Rose Tyler is a small fish in a big pond, wanting something more than her mundane everyday life. Whilst not every story is consistently amazing, almost 20 years later we have fantastic stories like The Unquiet Dead, Dalek, Father's Day, The Empty Child two-parter that still gives me nightmares to this day, all culminating in the finale that looks at the future of reality TV, and the inclusion of the Dalek Emperor that gives the 9th Doctor an amazing regeneration, going out in a buzz of optimism and hope, and assuring new viewers at home that everything will be okay, because the 9th Doctor can die knowing he was absolutely fantastic. He made everyone he met on his travels a better person, perfectly encompassing that the Doctor truly is the man who makes people better. Series 1 might not take the top spot on this list, but it really does hold up, and certainly rewards repeat viewings. Despite being 20 years old, Series 1 can still feel so new to me. Number 2. Series 4. This is easily the series I am the most nostalgic for. Watching this as a 10-year-old slowly but surely, counting down the days until April 2008, was certainly worth the wait. Every episode felt like event TV, as Doctor Who appeared to be on everybody's mind and the production team knew it. This is a creative team knowing that their time is coming to an end, but ensuring they go out in the biggest bang possible. The elephant in the room is, of course, the Doctor's daughter, which does feel like a cheap duff of the series. But the reason Series 4 is still so high, particularly over others like Series 3, is that no other series on this list has 5 back-to-back 10 out of 10 grade A classics, from Silence in the Library to The Stolen Earth. All of those episodes are masterful television and rank as some of the best Doctor Who stories ever written. Top this off with a perfect Doctor and companion dynamic with the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble, two best friends travelling the universe, and Donna learning she is the most important woman in the whole of creation, despite never feeling special, is so terrific, only to have it cruelly taken away from her, which is the bittersweet type of TV that I love. Every story feels so special, from Walking Fat to Ancient Pompeii, the Earth Empire built on slavery, a Sontaran invasion, an Agatha Christie murder mystery, a giant planet library, the morality of humans, alternative realities, all culminating in the most ambitious crossover, well before the Marvel Cinematic Universe had ever reached those highs. Series 4 is consistently wonderful, showing the full strengths of this creative team, and while it may buckle under its weight at the end of it all, it's still capped off by the saddest companion departure of the revived series, ending Russell T Davies' first run as showrunner with such a personal companion journey. Everything about Series 4 works amazingly well. The stories, direction, supporting cast, the music. Watching this series makes me feel like a kid in a huge, sweet shop, and would be the best of the revived series, but I have to give my favourite to number 1, Series 5. There was so much to prove with Series 5, as Matt Smith had massive boots to fill after the departure of David Tennant, but Doctor Who's fairy tale season more than pulled it off, and was allowed to differentiate itself from the RTD era in many ways. Case in point, instead of increasing the scale of each finale every year, Series 5 literally blows up the universe, but instead of being an action-packed finale that can have its place, it becomes an intimate character piece, expertly showing how this TARDIS team has grown over their first series together. But it doesn't just have the best finale of the revived era, we also have the best debut story for any new Doctor ever, with the 11th Doctor confidently introducing this new incarnation with such ease, as if the character has never gone away. Whilst The Beast Below and Victory of the Daleks are heavily flawed, they aren't awful episodes either. But from the Time of Angels onwards, there's not a single episode that drops below just good or okay, with all of them being silver and gold. You get the triumphant return of the Weeping Angels, in a story that combines horror and action, an enjoyable run around 16th century Venice straight out of a Hammer horror film, a surreal look into the Doctor's darker nature that analyses this supposed third wheel relationship, a Silurian two-parter that presents its moral dilemma very well, and meeting Vincent van Gogh in one of the best depictions of mental health I've ever seen on television, with Tony Curran giving a knockout performance as the tortured artist. Even the cheaper episodes like The Lodger is still a massively enjoyable rom-com for me. Series 5 had the important job of convincing me and so many others to stay with Doctor Who after David Tennant left, and it more than proved its worth for me, and I will forever have Series 5 as my favourite for being an epic fantasy that has yet to be matched. Well, that's all from me ranking all of the revived Doctor Who series. Let me know in the comments below what your ranking would be, what's your favourite, what's your least favourite, and I will see you in the future for some more videos. Goodbye.